And we're doing it. Welcome to Iron Lion Radio, Episode 2, Getting Big. So today we're going to talk about hypertrophy, or adding muscle mass, a.k.a. getting bigger. So just so nobody thinks I'm not self-aware, obviously there's guys a lot bigger than me with a lot more muscle than me. I mean, not here, but everywhere else. But I started out pretty skinny, and eventually at my peak, I got pretty big. So I think I'm a good person to talk about what it takes to put muscle on. And this is definitely not going to be like a Flex magazine cover, 10 steps to getting huge, because there's not 10 steps. There's one thing that you need to get bigger, and we're going to talk about what that one thing is. I wasn't always big because I wasn't always trying to be big. And there was a time when it was advantageous for me to be small. And that's what I want to talk about today. Where the desire to get big came from. Because I'm not a naturally big person. I was a skinny teenage runner. I wasn't a football player. It feels like a previous life, but when I was younger, as I said, I was a distance runner. And I went to college at Western Washington University, and I had one really good track season there before I hurt my back and was forced to retire from running. But like I said, I was pretty good. I qualified for junior nationals in the 10K, so for a moment in time, I was probably one of the best 20 or 25 runners in America under 19. And a big part of that was because when I was 18, I was a freshman in college, and a lot of the top 18-year-olds were still in high school. So I wasn't special, but I was still a better runner than I ever became a bodybuilder. So my natural body type is more in line with a skinny runner than a big bodybuilder. And to be successful in running, the lighter the better. And I was pretty thin. So I'm about 5'10", and I was 137 pounds when I stopped running. So that's pretty thin. And I liked being thin because I loved running. And back then, running was everything to me. Everything that bodybuilding is now, running was then, and if not more. I mean, I didn't have a life plan. I didn't have life goals. I had running plans and I had running goals. So after my freshman year of college, it was the off season, and I was running 100 miles a week. I was running a lot. I was doing 3 runs a week, over 20 miles, and my back just started killing me. And I kept running, but it just didn't go away. And it just turns out that I wasn't built to sustain that kind of pounding. And I was in rough shape. I tried for a year with physical therapy, injections, chiropractics, acupuncture. I mean, I tried everything. But I knew, because I knew how it felt on the inside in my lower back and all the way up into my neck. I knew that I wasn't going to get back to running. I was messed up. I couldn't sit in a chair for any length of time. I couldn't stand in one place for almost any amount of time. And it plays games on your mind when you're used to being physical and being athletic, and now you can barely exist without being in pain. And it made me extremely bitter. And this is where I start playing psychologist on myself a little bit. I think we all do that. Because my actions are so easily explained afterwards. So I was super bitter, and I decided for no reason to move from Bellingham, Washington to Hollywood, Florida. So Bellingham, Washington is like as far northwest as it gets. And I moved to Hollywood, Florida, which is like as far southeast as it gets. So I think, it looks like I was just trying to move away as far as possible. I guess I didn't know about Saipan at the time, because if I did, I probably would have moved here. Anyway, it was subconscious, but clearly I was just attempting to make a major life change. And instead of being skinny, I decided that I was going to get bigger. If I couldn't run anymore, I didn't even want to look like a runner. And that was my motivation to get bigger. And I'm certainly not the first guy who ever wanted to get bigger. You've probably seen those old comic books where the wimpy kid gets pushed down at the beach and the jock calls him a skinny dweeb, and he decides that he's right on the spot. He's like, I'm going to get muscular, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to show the bully. And that story is as old as time. Now, that wasn't me, but everyone's motivation is different. And it's very common for guys to want to get more muscle. Girls want to get more muscle too. They just don't say it like that. They say, I want to get more toned. Well, guess what? Tone is more muscle and less fat. So it's not just guys. It's like a human condition. We want to see physical improvement. But we all know, especially for guys, there's a human mentality of, I want to get huge. Certainly not all of us. Plenty of guys are totally content with how they look. And it's not even something they focus on. Their body composition is not something they try to even take control over. And God bless them. I wish I was like that. My mind has been possessed with an obsessive desire to be bigger ever since that time. And I think that devotion to bodybuilding has even held me back in other areas of my life. It's 2 hours a day at the gym. Lord knows how many hours prepping food every week. And just the time and the mental and physical effort, it could have gone towards something else. I think I could have been more successful in my career or other things, but we make choices. And now I've reached a point in my life where I kind of want to let myself off the hook mentally, at least sometimes. And I hope that leads to better outcomes in other areas of my life, like mostly having a successful marriage and starting a family. And on this podcast already, I've mentioned a couple times that I'm done competing. But let me be clear. I say this out loud because I'm hoping that by doing that, I make it true. Like, I know the Emerald Cup in Seattle is April 27th and April 28th of 2018. So I know that. So I know exactly what I would have to do to be ready by then. So don't think that it's easy for me to give this up, because it's not. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I don't think there's 10 tips to getting big or 10 ways or whatever, 10 secrets, but rather there's just this one thing that you absolutely need to get big if you are someone like me who wants to gain significant muscle mass. One thing. It's an obsession with getting big. That's what you need. An obsession to get bigger. I remember I was on a job interview at Morgan Stanley, and this girl Danielle asked me, where do I see myself in 5 years? And I was thinking, and I swear to you, I thought, in 5 years, I want to be at least 250. Okay? So, of course I didn't say that. I said I wanted to be a CPA. But that's how intrusive it was. There was no setting it aside, even in important times, even when big things were going on. So an obsession with getting big. Of course you need to be informed. You have to know things. You have to know how to eat. You have to know how to train. But even if you knew nothing, if you have a passion to get bigger, to add muscle tissue to your body, you will figure out the rest. But the key ingredient is determination, and you can't teach that. I didn't know anything. In fact, the first couple of years of bulking were totally gross in retrospect. I ate one of those big DiGiorno pizzas every day, and I ate a giant frozen Costco lasagna every day. And every day I made 2 shakes. Okay, let me tell you what went into my protein shakes. I'd use 3 scoops of whey, so that's like 75 grams. And I mix that with whole milk, ice cream, and half a jar of natural peanut butter. And I did that twice a day. So I went through a jar of natural peanut butter every day. And you better believe I finished that carton of ice cream too. And I also ate a couple boxes of cereal every day. Those are what I ate every day. That's the base. Okay, it was shameful, but it worked. I got big. Now, I could have gotten big without eating like a total frat boy, but my point is, with zero information, nothing, I put on a lot of size because I had determination. And look, I was never a great bodybuilder, and I've downsized quite a bit from my peak, but even now, even what's left of me, I never thought I would get this big. When I started out, you know who I wanted to look like? I wanted to look like Matt Hughes, the UFC fighter. Matt Hughes was the 170-pound UFC champ. Okay? I thought, man, if one day I could look like that. But bodybuilding and getting big is a mental disorder. No two ways about it. as soon as you get to where you want to go, the goalposts move. You'll just never be happy. And that is kind of sad. But you think someone becomes incredible on Wall Street by living like a balanced life? No. Do you think they become the top salesperson in the country in their company by living a balanced life? No. It's the determined, focused, obsessive mindset. Now in sports, they would say it's a champion's mindset. But in getting big, there are no championships. Sure, you can compete in bodybuilding if you're good, or you could try to be the biggest guy in your gym. But let me be clear, there is no glory and there's no money in these things. And because of that, I think some would argue that there's better uses of your energy than, wasting wasting years of your life trying to become a bigger human. And I get why people would feel that way, but it misses the point. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't feel like I have control over what motivates me or what I'm passionate about. If I were to up and quit the gym, my effort at work is not going to double. I'm not going to all of a sudden start a foundation that changes the world. If it was that easy, I'd already be doing it. If it was that easy, you'd be doing it. Maybe this is the lazy way or a cop-out, but I don't think this effort is transferable. I also don't feel like I can give it to somebody else. So, out here, there's serious gym goers of all ages, but the guys who seem most interested in competitive bodybuilding are young, like early to mid-20s. And that's good because it's not a sport that's easy to pick up in your 30s. So these guys are young. And they all need to get bigger to be more competitive. The physique guys and the bodybuilding guys, if they want to be competitive outside of Saipan, they're going to need to get bigger. And nobody wants to see them do that more than me. And I love talking to them about their plans, and I like to hear their passion to get better. But I don't consider myself a mentor to this crowd. I like to hear what they're doing and share with them what I'm doing, but sharing information is not what's going to determine whether or not they go to the next level. If they have the determination, the commitment, and the consistent behavior, then they'll get there whether or not I help them. And I want to see them do it. But it's much more about their commitment than it is about any secrets me or anybody else has. Okay. Let's see. As I mentioned in my first video, this is Olympia week, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. So this time, we are going to do a very special Mr. Olympia edition of something I like and something I hate. So, something I like. Flex Wheeler is coming back. So, Flex Wheeler, who's probably the greatest bodybuilder to never be Mr. Olympia, after 14 years away from competing, he's coming back this year. He's like 52 years old, and he has a kidney transplant, and he's going to be competing at the Mr. Olympia in the classic physique division. So if you don't know about it, classic physique division is basically a bodybuilding competition where you have a weight limit for your given height. So if you're taller, you can weigh more. If you're shorter, you can weigh less. The other aspect of it is it's a little bit more about aesthetics than about freakiness, like the open division is. So when you're 52 years old, competing on aesthetics with guys in their 20s, that should be completely impossible. And there was a lot of hate when he announced this, saying that he shouldn't be doing the show. It's bad for his health. Someone died and he got their kidney. He should be treating, life more important than this. Well, his kidney specialist has come out and said his kidney is healthier than ever. I guess, who knew, like, losing all that body fat would be good for your health, right? So I was kind of iffy about it. Like, I didn't know how he was going to be able to do. He's 52. But there's been some recent footage leaked, and he looks completely nuts. So good for him. Do I think he wins? I mean, he's already won. It just goes to show that it's never too late to take a second bite at the apple. And I think it's inspiring. It tells you to never be afraid to change your mind. And I'll be rooting for him. So something to hate. So I said this was a very special Mr. Olympia special edition of something I like and something I hate. And that's what I hate, that it's Mr. Olympia. There is no Miss Olympia anymore. This is something that I think a lot of people are not fully aware of, but there is no longer a women's bodybuilding division to crown a Miss Olympia champion. Women now, what do they have? Bikini, figure, and women's physique division, but no bodybuilding. So obviously, there's a reason this happened. And we all know that steroids are part of bodybuilding, and they're part of women's bodybuilding. And in the most recent decade, it's gotten to be a little too much. The women started becoming in too big, too masculine, clearly pushing the envelope too far. Their voices were deep, and it was gross. But this is so easily solved. Have you ever seen the women's physique division? That's the division that Dana Lynn Bailey used to compete in, and Juliana Malacarne is the champion of now. These women are bodybuilders in my mind. And if that standard is acceptable, why did we throw away the whole sport? Why didn't we just change the judging standard? The only reason women pushed the envelope so hard is that the judges were rewarding them for it. I mean, look, bodybuilding is like a dog show. And the breed standard for women bodybuilders, well, I probably shouldn't use the word breed standard for women, but let's say the gold standard for women bodybuilders needs to be a feminine look. Good muscularity, but like not too intense. They need to ban the fake hair. I mean, men don't wear fake hair on stage, so I don't see why the women should either. If they encourage a more natural look with, they give the women who look the right way, the right placings and good prize money, then that's the look that women will show up with. And if the IFBB believes that the current winning look in the women's physique division now represents the sport well, let's just call it women's bodybuilding and let's crown a new Miss Olympia. Women's bodybuilding used to be a big thing. We used to have amazing representatives of the sport. If you don't know about Corey Everson and Lenda Murray, you should do a Google search. They were amazing, and women looked up to them. We need to get back to having a face that can represent women in the sport. And with the title of Miss Olympia, they can represent health and fitness for everyone. So bring back Miss Olympia. Okay, something to check out this week. Each week I'm going to give you something, a video or something to read that I think you should check out. And in the spirit of today's topic of having that determined mindset, I think there's a documentary that's worth checking out. Tony Robbins has a special on Netflix called I'm Not Your Guru. I always thought of him as like an infomercial guy or like a book on tape guy, but I don't think I realized the positive effect that he's had on so many people. I would check out the documentary. You'll like it. It'll open your eyes and maybe change your mind about what you think about him. So I'll link to that below. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging out with me for a bit. Let me know if there's any topics you want to hear about. I'm starting to shoot some gym footage, so we're going to start having some other kind of videos up on the channel. And we'll be back to talk more about health and fitness. So I'll see you guys in the next one.